Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are having a fantastic start to your weekend. I, for one, am definitely thankful for the break. Been working, been busy all week, been in knee deep into spreadsheets and numbers for the last 72 hours. So I am definitely happy that Saturday is here and I'm alive and I'm healthy and I'm grateful. Anyways, today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about 5 things that I have grown to love about this car, since I've owned it. For those of you who don't know, I am coming from a 2024 WRX TR. And if you're new here, by the way, welcome. Please subscribe to the channel if you like the content. But I am coming from a 2024 WRX TR, and the car got totaled, long story short, and I figured I would go in a different direction because I have owned a Subaru for the past 5 years, and I was itching for a change. I think due to the fact that the car was taking so long to kind of get fixed, because I did have it in the shop for about a month or so, and I started thinking about if it was total, what I would do. So here she is. This is what I did, 2023 Civic Type R. I was cross shopping this with the Type S, but decided to go with the Type R for a couple of reasons. And again, I'll discuss that today. 5 things I have grown to love about this car. Number 1, let's get to the nitty gritty. Boom! This hatch right here. Now, coming from the WRX, I had obviously not a hatch. I had the 2024, which is a sedan. Having to finagle things and prep the trunk to put stuff in it to make sure everything fits. I wouldn't say it was a hassle, but it was something extra that I had to do in my very busy lifestyle. So it was something that I did not necessarily look forward to doing when I was going grocery shopping, when I was going, packing big things, big suitcases, going on longer trips and stuff like that. So having that trunk versus this was definitely a huge upgrade. Just almost like having a third back seat. You could just throw anything back there and not necessarily have to manage too much. Now, to be fair, I had grocery hooks, so if I had bags or anything like that, they had hooks on them, which would kind of save space, but at the same time, it more or less gave you the illusion of that you're saving space. It was more for safety and things not fumbling around when you're driving. So, but for this, the practicality of the space and having a hatch and something that's easily accessible to throw things in, even dropping the seats, I got to fit a 75-inch TV in there. So it is practical approved in my estimation. So yeah, that's definitely number 1 on my list, I would say, if I had to rank them. So number 2, let's get in the inside of something that I have grown to really, really appreciate about this car. Shout out to the Topher for the Topher tap. And again, I think he should coin that term because it is very cool. It's a very cool thing that he does when he does his videos, especially in the snow or if he is in the dirt or something like that. I think it's kind of cool. I do like the welcome, animation. That's pretty cool. But number 2, if I can start the car, the gauge cluster. Now, I was watching a video from Tedward the other day, and he was going into a little bit more detail about gauge clusters. He was driving his Winter Daily, which is a Lexus, I think it's a GX 470 or 480, something like that. A full-size SUV, really nice. and he was going into some detail about how gauge clusters have kind of fell off over the last few years or something like that. And I tend to agree with him because, you know, from what I've been seeing, everybody's trying to go digital, and I think it's a shortcut to not having the proper ambiance of the car, of how you're trying to design it from the inside. And let me see if I can explain this the right way. Okay, for example, the Mustang, they have those options in those newer cars, the S series Mustangs. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section if you own a Mustang or if you know your Mustangs. The current ones, I believe, are the S550s. I'm not entirely sure, but you can customize your gauge cluster to the old school Fox body gauge cluster. Now, there's a reason why they would add something like that, right? Like, they would do that because they know people like the classic analog gauges. So, and in my opinion, it took, I think having really good analog gauges sets the car apart from others, because it looks more premium. It completes the look of a car, if I'm being honest. I mean, seats do as well, which I will discuss those, but gauge clusters, and for this one in particular, before I go off too much on a tangent on that, is great because for the most part, when I'm traveling, I use comfort mode, obviously trying to save gas, which I haven't been saving much gas. I've been at 27.4 at the most. I haven't gotten this thing to 30. I wish I could. I've been running 93 octane, so I don't know what that entails as far as like fuel savings. I've been trying to baby it a little bit, doing cruise control and whatnot, but I can't seem to get the 30. For those of you who've gotten the 30 on this car, please let me know how you did it, because I would like to get the 30, because we all know, you see that fuel range? This gas tank is small, dude. Like, and again, I'm gonna discuss this on the 5 things I really don't like about this car, and that's one of the major things, especially for a guy who travels a lot. That fuel tank is super small. Anyway, the gauge cluster, I think, is a huge upgrade, you know, as far as like customization and information. Like I said, I prefer the analogs, but on the track, your boy gonna be using this right here, because I'm also a gamer too, and this thing just looks straight video game, and it gives you all the relevant information that you would need, minus something I believe is very important, but I'm not going to discuss that right now because it's going to be in my next video. You guys know what it is, and you know what they're missing. If you are an avid track driver, they're missing something very important here. And honestly, I was looking for it when I got in the car, and I realized they didn't have it. I'm like, what in the hell? Why would you not have that? But anyways, the gauge cluster is great. I do like the shift lights as well, because you know, knowing when you're going to shift, I believe it's programmable. I'm not entirely sure, but it's something that is definitely a welcome addition to the way that I like to drive. But again, like I said, when I'm traveling, I use these gauges mostly, and then you know, swap between these two, because I do prefer the way analog gauges look, to be honest. So number 3, this thing right here. Now, there have been so many people on YouTube talking about the shifter and the Honda, and it is phenomenal. I have owned, in my lifetime, how many Hondas have I owned? 4, 5? Yeah, 5 of them. And the shifter engagement is definitely top tier. It always has been top tier, and it's always something that everybody raves about. Now, coming from a Subaru as of recently, you know, we all know the Achilles heel of that car is the shifter. And this, having the engagement, like it's a little bit further up than I'm used to, because I believe that the Subaru was like right about here, and I'm kind of used to it being here, but I'm getting a little bit more adjusted. I'm still trying to find my seated position a little bit, you know, just to kind of keep my ergonomics the way that they need to be for me to drive at speed. But this shifter, I don't feel needs to be changed. A lot of people change it to the Acuity short throw and some other shifter that they prefer. But out the box, I think I'll be running this one on the track just because there's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion. So the only thing that I will be changing is the shift knob. And shout out to my dear friend who bought me this for Christmas, because it is a welcome addition, you know, to my life, because I don't have any gloves. As you can see, I'm like super ashy, and this thing is super cold in the winter, and having this is a huge addition to me having to drive this car and shift a lot. So I do, like I said, on the track, I will be changing this to like more of a ball, like a Billet Works shift knob, because I shift up here. But when I am, you know, driving normally, I whip my hand and flex all over the shift knob, which the teardrop is definitely a good option to have. I am going to get the Integra Type S shift knob as well, because it has the rubbering on the side, and I believe it's a little bit different than this one. And it's also a weighted shift knob, just to kind of have a little bit of a variety. But other than that, no complaints. The shifter is great. The engagement on the shifter is phenomenal. I really, really love how this car engages with the car as you shift. So, you know, all green over here, honestly. Number 4. This is something that I believe is one of the most important things in a vehicle, and Honda has knocked this thing out of the park. These seats are phenomenal. I drive about 600 miles a week, and on average, obviously minus the holidays, and these seats are great. They don't hurt my back after long drives. I mean, my back will get a little stiff, but again, if you're in the car for long enough, your back is going to get stiff. There's nothing you can do about that part. But coming from a WRX TR, those seats are so firm. And again, that's good for track driving for sure. Don't get me wrong. They were good for that purpose and for, I would say, daily use, but long trips, those seats were not good. And if you don't believe me, ask any TR user or go on eBay. I challenge you to go on eBay and look how many people are selling their TR seats or trying to trade them for the limited. Just because I believe that they just made those things way too firm. They're great and they look great, but long-term driving, for those of you who have a bad back like myself, they are not good. These are plush. They're very comfortable. I don't feel, I don't feel uncomfortable after long drives with these seats. So I definitely give these things high marks. And, when you buy a car, especially a car at this price point, you want that practicality you want that comfort as well as the practicality of the car. And these seats definitely fit the bill. Now, I'll add one thing about what they should have changed. This right here, they should have put in black the Type R. I think that should have been in black, like an outline, a better design. I think this was a little bit lazy. I think they should have just put that in black and just kind of brought out the interior, which is already like a grayish, blackish tone anyway. They should have just put that in black, and I think they would have been sweet. But last but not least, I guess we can start from here, actually. Can I see it here? Yeah. Is my leg in the way? There we are. This thing right here. This is everything. This saves lives, actually, The brake pedal. The brake feel in this car in its stock form is phenomenal. And, having these things as, coming out of the box is great because, as you guys know, if you don't know, you can definitely do your research on it. Those brakes on the Subaru, at least the premium trim and the limited, the brakes are just not that great out the box on the street. They I think they get the job done, right? They do pass the test. But if you're trying to do some good canyon driving or some medium to high end driving, you're going to have to address those brakes. And for these, for, you know, some canyon carving and stuff like that, these brakes I think are great. I have no complaints about them. They feel great. The response is immediate. It feels like a race car. It feels like a car that you can really, really rely on when you need to get those, you know, use those brakes. So that is, like I said, I saved that for last because it is one of the most important things that you can have in a car. You definitely want to be able to brake, especially in weather like such as this, in the snow. And for those of you who don't notice, I took my PS4S's off and got the Extreme Contact. What are these? The Continental Extreme Contact All Seasons. And I believe I got the same width. I think they're 265 on the width. On the 19, it's the stock 19. So yeah, you know, these do very well. I probably will do a video on these tires. They do just fine in the snow. And I want to debunk the myth that you really don't need a 4-wheel drive car in the snow. You don't. This car moves just fine in the snow. If you don't know, tires are 90% of what you need on a car. You need good tires. And if you invest into some good tires, you'll be fine in snow. You know, can I speak for 50 feet, 60 feet of snow? No. But East Coast snow, you know, especially, you know, metropolitan areas, stuff like that has these trucks that clear off the snow on the main roads, you'll be fine with all season tires. But anyway, I'll probably go into detail about that in another video. That's all I got for today. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think and what you guys like about your FL5 if you have one. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.